Hello, my name is Paula Farrell, and thank you for joining me today for lunchtime with the Irish Peatland Conservation Council. Today we're going to discuss the Large Heath Butterfly, which is just one of a series of talks with lunchtime with IPCC. In the other talks, we did discuss what a peatland is, types of bogs, the plants and animals found on these kinds of habitats, how to complete a habitat assessment, the importance of water on a bog, and how to block a drain. So these talks are supported by the Community Foundation for Ireland and the Irish Environmental Network. Okay, so just a brief introduction to who we are. We are the Irish Peatland Conservation Council, and we are a charity. Our mission is to conserve and protect a representative sample of peatlands for people today and for future generations in Ireland. So we are based in the Bogavalla Nature Centre in Lullymore, Rathangan County, Kildare. We do own and manage 5 reserves. They are Lodge Bog and Lullymore West in County Kildare, Fenner Bog in Waterford, Gurley Bog in Meath, and Cold Bog in Kerry. Our work includes many different areas, such as the monitoring of species, peatland policy, research, education, and awareness, and also peatland site conservation. The Save the Bogs campaign is guided by our peatlands conservation action plans, and to date we have developed 7. The latest action plan is called Peatlands and Climate Change Action Plan 2030, which should be read in conjunction with the Peatland and Conservation Action Plan 2020, Halting the Loss of Peatland Biodiversity. So if you'd like to learn more about us or purchase our latest action plan, you can visit our website at www.ipcc.ie. So we're going to start with the identification of the Large Heath Butterfly. You can see it there in the image. It's quite the underwings are quite dull, apart from this rusty color here on the under forewing. It is a small to medium-sized butterfly with a wingspan of 38 to 42 millimeters. Now in the field, you're obviously not going to have a ruler, but I would advise that you familiarize yourself with a common butterfly, such as a small tortoiseshell, which is a larger butterfly as well. So it's larger than the large heath. And if you familiarize yourself with that butterfly, you'll be able to compare the sizes then. It rests with its wings closed typically. The underwings have white streaks, as you can see there in the image. The underside of the forewing is a rusty brown color, while the underside of the hindwing is a grey color with 2 to 6 ringed eye spots. These eye spots then again vary in color. The upper wings are tawny brown or orange with dark spots. The flight period is June to July, and the adults fly low to vegetation in a zigzag pattern, so very erratically across the habitat. It is a peatland specialist because it is associated with peatland vegetation, which I'll discuss in a few moments. There is a similar species called the small heath. It is a smaller butterfly. Colours are very similar, however, the underside of the hindwing doesn't have any black eye spots, and there is the absence of the white streaks on the underside of the wings as well. So the life cycle. The adults emerge in June, and between June and July then the female lays 1 egg on the dead leaves of the hairstail cotton grass, which is the larval food plant. The egg is spherical shaped, around 0.6 millimeters wide to 0.8 millimeters high. And at first it is pale in color, which then develops brown blotches and becomes a grey color before it hatches. The larvae then are between 22 and 26 millimeters, and they develop from late July to September. You can identify them because they have a green head with a brown mouth and white stripes. They also have a dark stripe as well going down the body. They feed on the food plant, and then from September to March, they will hibernate as the weather becomes colder. And they will hibernate in the 3rd instar stage and then emerge again in spring. The pupae begins to develop between May and June. So the caterpillars pupate from May to June, and they form a bright green pupae or chrysalis, which is about 11 millimeters in length. Later on then, the color of the pupa deepens and it develops black streaks on the wing cases, as you can see here in the image. All images on this slide are copyright of Jesmond Harding. Now, after 13 to 23 days, the adults will emerge. So the new adults will emerge. Habitat and food plant. It is restricted to wet and boggy habitats, so it is a peatland specialist butterfly. And the larva food plant is the hare's tail cottongrass. You can see here in the first image. You can identify this plant because it has one fruiting body, which will be present from May to June. It is found on the drier parts of the bog and grows in tightly packed clumps. There is another similar species called the common cottongrass. However, that does have more than one cotton fruiting body and is typically found in wetter areas of the bog. So it loves water a little bit more. Then the source of the adult nectar is the cross-leaved heath. It is a small evergreen shrub which grows to about 70 centimeters in height. It has pink flowers that droop and cluster to one side. You can see here, lovely little pink flowers, bell-shaped flowers that droop to one side. The stem is thin with small narrow leaves in whorls of 4. So not to confuse it with ling heather, which is a shrubby kind of plant. It has pale purple flowers that grow in spikes from July to October, and the leaves are scale-like. So that's just so you can identify the cross-leaved heath and so that it isn't confused. The distribution, so as you can see, it's very scattered across the map here, which was taken from the National Biodiversity Data Centre this year. The Large Heath butterfly is found in the Midlands, Kerry, Athlone, Mayo, Kildare, Galway. Okay, threats. It is listed as vulnerable on the IUCN butterfly red list, but it isn't a protected species in Ireland, unfortunately. It is restricted to peatland habitats, and it has undergone a loss of habitat due to human activities such as drainage, peat extraction, and afforestation. It is predicted that the population will decline due to a decline in the quality of its habitat. So if you see here the table, the status of the blanket bog and raised bog is bad, whereas the graded raised bog is poor, and the future prospect is poor, bad, and poor. Okay, so it doesn't look great for this butterfly. It is under-recorded as well, and there is still so much we don't know about it. Okay, so how would you manage for the large heath? First of all, hydrology is an important aspect. So you'd block the drains, that raises the water table, which creates ideal conditions for peatland plants. So typically we want a water table, within 20 centimeters from the surface on peatland habitats. And that is to ensure that the plants that are found in this kind of habitat remain. You would remove the scrub, and we would do that by hand. So we don't use machines or anything like that. We want to reduce our impact on the bog. So the typical plants you'd find is gorse, tree saplings like birch and willow. These plants and trees can alter the hydrology. So plants or trees in general would require a large amount of water. So they can make the area a bit drier, and it's also very indicative of drying on the bog. So our advice would be to remove these plants from the habitat. Now, grazing, it might be required on drier sites, so the likes of light sheep grazing, which prevents the dominance of heather. But on wetter sites, it's not grazed. So we don't actually graze our raised bog in Kildare. We don't need to. It's very, very wet. Okay. So as well, the grazing then you have to avoid overgrazing if you did have grazing on your site. The monitoring then of the large heath and lodged bog. So in 2017, we worked with Jesmond Harding who is a butterfly expert, and the National Biodiversity Data Centre. And that was to bridge a gap on large heath populations in Ireland, and to develop a toolkit for citizen scientists. We then developed a scientific monitoring survey on Lodge Bog, and this is for demonstration. So this survey is part of the 5-year Butterfly Atlas, which targets species such as the large heath, and the data will make significant contribution to establishing, to understanding the current distribution of the species in Ireland. It is an umbrella species, so it is very indicative of the quality of a habitat, and the health, and it shows whether there is a good, healthy population of invertebrates on the site as well. Okay, so the habitat condition assessment. So before you actually do that, you'd have to ensure that there is large heath on your site. So you might walk the bog or the habitat and just carry out a butterfly survey and see if you come across any butterflies. If you do, you would then develop a map. So this map would have a series of transects, okay? And these transects are, so it's basically a route that's split into different sections called transects. And you would identify the plant communities within those transects, and you draw that on a map. So you can use Google Maps to look at your site and to identify where this transect route is going to go. So as I said before, you complete a survey, ensure that the habitat, ensure that there are large heath and that the habitat is suitable. So you'd find tussocks of hare's tail cotton grass. Okay, so once you have your map developed, you would use it then and a recording sheet to survey the vegetation to complete this habitat assessment. This can be done either, on the same day that you complete a butterfly survey as well. So there isn't too much of an order in this. So you survey a 1 by 1 meter quadrat along the route. Okay, and you can imagine this 1 by 1 meter quadrat, or you can bring along a meter stick with you. So I might bring along 4 meter sticks with me and create a 1 by 1 meter quadrat. Now you might decide to stop every 10 paces or 20 paces, but this differs per site. So on a site that is less than 1 hectares, 20 stops should be completed. So that is 20 quadrats. 1 to 5 hectares, 40 stops, and more than 5 hectares would be 50 stops. So it really depends on the size of your habitat. Within the quadrat, then you record the height of the vegetation. So this is to the top of the leaves, not the flowers. So right up to the top of the leaves. You then record the percentage of plants such as the hare's tail cotton grass and the cross-leaved heath. So the percentage of this plant within your quadrat, and they fall into the following categories. So A is 75 to 100%, B 50 to 75%, C 25 to 50%, D 5 to 25%, E less than 5%, and F, there's none of those plants there at all. So then you mark an X for the presence of structured vegetation, and this is vegetation that is of varying heights. Okay, so it's vegetation that isn't all the one height. This structured vegetation is really is required for butterflies. Then you would mark an X for low invading scrubs. So this is trees, saplings that are less than 25 centimeters tall, and then the evidence of grazing. So there could be areas of bare peat, there could be trampling, or there could be tracks by grazing animals, depending on what kind of animals you might have on the site, if you have any at all. Then you would estimate the percentage cover of the tall scrub. So that you do this at the end of the survey for the whole site. And this is scrub that is over 50 centimeters tall. Okay, and this is just an example of what the habitat assessment form or sheet looks like. Okay, and you can see here, this is an example of structured vegetation. So it has varying heights and different levels and slopes. Whereas these two are kind of all the one height. So we want varying heights within our vegetation structure. And, within this sheet, it does explain everything in detail too. So you pop in your details, the name of the site, management observations, and then here it does go through the categories of how you list the vegetation you find within the quadrat. And you just fill out the quadrats here, okay, depending on how many stops or quadrats you're going to complete. Okay, then along the same day, you will do, or you can do, a large heath butterfly, and you'll do this a few times. So you'll complete large heath butterfly a few times. You ensure the weather conditions are suitable. So it has to be, well, best to survey with the temperature that is more than 13 degrees Celsius and less than 40% cloud cover, with a wind speed of Beaufort less than 5. So you don't want it to be too windy, and you want it to be warm enough for this butterfly to be out. Now, it can fly in duller weather as well. So just to note that it has been recorded flying in duller weather. Okay, so you may have already then developed your map. If not, then you develop your map with a series of transects. Okay, that's again if the indicator species are found. You complete the survey from June to mid-July, so when the butterfly is on the wing. And again, it flies erratically close to the vegetation. So sometimes you might not always get a good look at it. It might just pass your eye. So you just have to be very mindful of it. It could just be a flash of a rusty orange color you might see along your route. Then you walk the transect route at an even pace, and you record the start time, the end time, all the relevant information, keep an even pace again, and record within a 5-meter box. So that basically means you imagine a box around you. So you record 5 meters in front of you, to your left and to your right. Just to note as well, our advice is you don't survey alone, because this butterfly is found on peatland habitats, and there are many open drains, and they can be quite dangerous. So always bring somebody with you. Okay, this is just an example of the transects we have developed on Lodge Bog. So you can see here, we have covered the site. That's just to get, to encompass the area, the whole area, so that we can get a good kind of evaluation of the site for the large heath. And along this route is where we complete the habitat assessment as well as the large heath butterfly survey. So we might complete the large heath habitat assessment first, and also then we might complete the large heath butterfly survey on the same day, and then we'll do a few more surveys for the large heath butterfly after that too, within the right time frame, so when it's on the wing. And it is divided into different sections, and that's to help you record and keep track of where it's most often found. So if I was to find it up here in area or transect 5, then I would know where it is basically. Okay, so it's just to keep track of where it's most often found on the habitat. And that is our suitable habitat here within the black lined boundary. So all this here is a suitable habitat for the large heath butterfly. Okay, and this is just an example of the survey for the large heath butterfly. You just, again, you fill in the details. You might include your map as well as some details of, the plants and the habitats along your transect. And you then record the days that you have monitored this species and anything else that you have to include. Then you do send your information to the National Biodiversity Data Centre. Now, before you do any of this, I would advise that you contact the National Biodiversity Data Centre as well, and they may provide you with more information. So just to go through some of the results we found on our survey. So basically, Lodge Bog, first of all, is a 35-hectare raised bog in Kildare. And we completed a habitat assessment in 2020 which showed that the hairtail cotton grass, so the larval caterpillar food plant, was found in 68 out of 91 quadrats. So that was a lot of quadrats we completed. I believe it was every 10 paces we did, and that's how we encompassed 91 quadrats across the site. The cross-leaved heath then, it was recorded in 90 out of 91 quadrats. So that's really good. It means that there's a large nectar source for the adult butterfly. In 2020, we also completed 4 large heath surveys with 40 adults recorded in total. So this is a huge increase of 22 from 2019. So it's basically showing that our efforts on the bog to raise the water table is making conditions more suitable for this butterfly because, there is a bountiful supply of its larval food plant and it's the adult nectar source. Then, so yeah, the results do reflect the management, such as the drain blocking to increase the water table. Now, in Cold Bog, our blanket bog in County Kerry, we did find our first large heath that was recorded by our dedicated volunteer, Mifanway in County Kerry. So she would complete the water level monitoring on Cold Bog for us every year. And she recorded her first large heath butterfly on the site. There are no other records for the butterfly on this site that we have on file. So it's a really, really good sign, and it shows the progress that we have made, towards improving and restoring this habitat for the butterfly. And it also gives us, valuable information about the community, the invertebrate communities around that area too. So as I said before, the large heath is an umbrella species, and it does indicate that there's a population of invertebrates. Okay, so you can actually take part in the Large Heath Habitat Assessment or the Large Heath Survey. And I would advise you to get in contact with me if you are interested in this. You will develop new skills, or you can improve existing skills, and you'll meet likewise people. If you have a peatland site close to you, definitely get involved with us, and we'll show you kind of how to complete the survey on the site. So it might be a bit scary, starting this at first on your own. So, definitely come along with us when we're doing it. Now, our next lunchtime talk, we are going live on Friday, the 14th of May at 1 p.m. So do take part. We'll have a lot to show you on the bog, and we can answer any questions you have about that as well live. I would advise you that, if you do want to support us, you can become a member of a friend of the bog. Your support would really help us to complete the work that we do towards conserving and protecting bogs and monitoring the species found in these particular habitats. So, we would really appreciate your support and becoming a friend of the bog. I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any questions about anything after, or you want to contact us, you can go and contact us by email at bogs@ipcc.ie, or if you're looking for information, we do have a lot of resources on our website and a lot of free downloadable resources too. And you can find those at www.ipcc.ie. So when we do have events, we put them up onto our website. We also post our events on social media. So do keep up to date with us on social media as well. You can follow us on various sites like Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So I want to say thank you all for joining me, and I will see you for the live call.